My apologies, but I do have a really good reason for being late, and that is the fact that I was arguing with Dev on Twitter. And so arguing with Dev is always productive, especially if you know the arguments. You see, like when you're trying to insult someone that you don't know and you're using like custom insults. It's not very effective, but like when you know someone and you just like perfectly craft, you perfectly tailor the insult like a fine leather jacket just so it can fit that person perfectly is what I've been doing. You know, like throwing a little bit of salt at someone, but like having such accurate aim that it goes right into the eye. That's what I've been doing. So like he's trying to defend Ciri from Witcher 4, saying that no, actually she looks good. And I'm like, and he's saying like, no, she doesn't look like a man. And my counter rebuttal to that was like, Dev, you like women with penises. Like, I'm not sure you endorsing this character is the win you think it is. And so this kept him awake at night because he came up with like a long description. It's like, no, V is wrong. People call me a gooder. It's like, oh, you want to see pornography. You want to see, you're into teenage girls. You like anime. It's like, no, I just want to see this. Why can't I see this? What was the problem with this, huh? Is this bad? I mean, it's the same fucking studio. I will explain to you Ciri, right? Just really quick, because like a lot of people don't get it, and I generally wonder, like, do they not get it because they're thick, or do they not get it because they're trying to score like a political victory? Let me find a picture of Ciri, and I'll show you immediately why people are saying that. Okay. This is even one that I found which is more acceptable because they're trying to sell you the statue, right? This is a picture from Ciri, and it's not from the game. I think it's like a promotional thing for the statue that they're selling, and they're asking $3,000 for it. So like here, she actually looks feminine. They fixed the facial structure so that it's more feminine. Now here's the thing. It's not that there aren't women in the world that have more masculine traits, that have like a more masculine face, or they have small boobs. Like, of course they exist. But you're asking for my money. Why would I settle for mediocrity? Like, you can have artists and you can make whatever. The reason that people are saying Ciri looks masculine is because she has an aura of masculinity about her. She has nothing feminine. There's no grace. There's no sensuality. There's nothing that any type, like there's no woman in my life that I know, and I know a lot of them, that acts and behaves like Ciri. She is stoic. She's angry all the time. She literally behaves like Geralt with a wig and small tits. And so this is what people are saying. Like, you can make a strong female character without robbing her femininity. Look at the anime. Look at Mikasa, for an example. Look at Witcher 3. Look at Witcher 2. Like, they had strong women in the game that were feminine. And so the question is, why do they keep making this? Because it's not just one game. You know, like, holy shit, Mass Effect. Do you remember that bald chick from Mass Effect? What was her name? Zero? Right? Like, she was bald. She was, like, tattooed. Like, her entire body was revolting. But she was still like a woman. Like, she was still behaving like a woman. Which is what people are asking for. Like, just make relatable characters. Because imagine if you make Kratos, and he's like flamboyant and feminine, and he's making pog faces and soy boy expressions. Like, it's not like you can't find men like Kratos that would be like that. But, like, why is that glorified now? Why is that front and center in every single game? This is what people are saying. They're fed up with it. And so then there isn't a market for it. Like, you super saturated the market for the stern, stoic, angry woman that also has masculine features. Like, she doesn't show any cleavage. She dresses in a way to cover herself like she lives under Sharia. And she's always angry. She's always upset. She resorts to violence to fix every problem. That's what people are fed up with. And that's what they're saying. Stop being so daft. It's not even about porn. We know where porn is. We can find porn on the internet, with dumbasses. And it's not even about censorship. I don't care. Like, keep making these characters. I don't know for who you are making them. Like, I assume there is someone that likes it. Maybe Dev will buy your game. Sure. But, like, the market is being very specific and very outspoken that this is enough. You've done enough. Do something else. And so, if they don't want to do something else, Asia is a competitor now. And I made a video, and I generally feel this way. Like, I've been playing some Asian games lately. I've been playing Stellar Blade. I've been playing Nikkei. I've been playing Snowbreak. I've been playing, like, a lot of stuff that comes from Asia. And when I saw the trailer for the Naughty Dog game, I legitimately felt like barfing. Like it wasn't a neutral standpoint. It was, like, disgust and disdain. And I had to wonder, like, why that is, you know, because I stood back a little bit and I was like, well, this isn't like myself. Like, I usually don't feel that way. Why am I so emotionally invested? And it's because the West, ideologically, has chosen to reject beauty. Like, it's a rejecting of beauty and truth. And even more than that is that people are used to it because they have been slowly boiled like the frog. So when you jump away and you're noticing how culture should be like, because I don't think like Japanese people or Asian games are more Goonerish than the United States used to be back in 2014. I don't think they're doing anything that the US hasn't been doing. And so when you actually look at how things should be, if they're not possessed by an ideology, when you come back, it actually makes you feel disgust. It's kind of like going out and eating at a respectable French Michelin restaurant for like 2 months, and then you come back home and you're forced to eat from the garbage. It's literally that, you know? Like, if you're born in a very low-income house and you're living in poverty and you gotta make do, you get used to eating from garbage. So it's not like something, you know, that's out of the ordinary. Like, it becomes normal. But like, if you actually get out of that and you live life like a normal person should for like 3 months, when you go back, it is just like the worst experience ever. And this is how I'm feeling right now about Western AAA shit. It's not the aesthetics by themselves, it's also the personality of the characters, the themes, the lack of wholesomeness. Like, they're behaving in a way that humans do not behave. And it's the rejection of truth and beauty that I genuinely find disgusting. They said they changed Ciri's face to be more masculine. See, like, this is what Dev tries to deny. Is like, no. And I'm like, well, Dev, you like women with penises. I don't think this is a good endorsement. V just gatekeep Dev. He's constantly defending manly women and he's into Democrat plus women. Is the target audience, so he'll always defend this. Well, this is what the conversation was literally about. Like, I genuinely said this to him. And I'm not being mean-spirited or anything. It's like, look, I understand you like this, but like, stop projecting your own personal takes on the entire market. Like here's the thing. When the culture was shifting, no, even better. Like here's another thing. I like women with big tits. Okay, like, I genuinely do not like women with flat chests. It's just the way I am. Like, if it doesn't have big breasts, I don't find it attractive. It doesn't mean like I can't talk to the person or I can't interact. But like, from a sexual speaking, like if she doesn't have big boobs, I'm not interested sexually at all. But like, I know that's a me thing. I understand not all people are like this. I understand some people like women with flat chests. Some people like women with solid breasts, right? I wouldn't try to make an argument and suggest, well, this woman is ugly because she has small breasts. Because I know that other people may appreciate that, right? Now, if I was in the minority and I preferred, I don't know, like a woman with a small breast and a large breast, right? Like, and there are women like that. But let's assume like that's the fetish I have. Like, I'm in a fringe minority. I would recognize that I'm in the minority. And when people say, wow, this woman is ugly, I wouldn't come in and say, no, actually, you're wrong. Because I know how to read a room. And Dev just doesn't know that. Like, he likes women that have masculine features, and he thinks everyone likes them. No, like, we notice the sales. We notice the charts. We can go on forums. We notice people talking. More boobs, less boobs. Yeah, pretty much. And thank you for being a member for 5 months, bipedal species. Short fat otaku sense of feminine beauty is off. Having his gods poked with meat might be related, but Dev would never recognize things being connected. I don't know. It's just that I don't care if he realizes it or not. Like, at the end of the day, the market speaks. And I'm genuinely worried that Asia is going to dominate the Western market for the next couple of years. I mean, that's not an if. That's a reality. Like, this is what's going to happen. And so the only thing that I can hope is that the Western market starts picking his shit together, stops listening to people like Dev, and actually starts making good content. And I will tell you what the thing is, right? Like here's how you can approach it from a complete pure business standpoint. If you make a female character that is ugly, right? If you make this, it's controversial at this point, right? Like, if you made this in 2014, maybe some people would treat it as a meme. But if you make this today, it is controversial. And so you're going to alienate part of the customers. Now, if you decide instead to make this, you're not alienating anyone. It's not even controversial. No one complains. Like, even the people that would defend Concord, even they aren't saying anything. Even they are like, yeah, you know what? This is actually good. If you make this, people complain. Yes, it's the same character. Yes, this is official comment. If you make this, people complain. You're losing audience. If you make this, you're not losing anybody. No one complains about it. There's not a single person that I've heard complaining about this design. Why do you keep insisting on doing this? And the answer that I came up with, it's part of American culture, and it goes a little bit beyond wokeness. I mean, it's kind of hand in hand with wokeness, but in America, you will notice that everything is catered to the employee and not the customer. In other words, the schools, they are geared towards the teachers, not the students. Almost all of the government work is for the benefit of the employee and not the citizens. And it's not all employee, it's usually women and special interest groups. So you end up having a broken system where the product is focused around the manufacturing. It's like bureaucracy expanded at such a level, it's bizarre, right? Like, the purpose of bureaucracy is the procedure, not the result. And this is why you end up with comic book companies with 20 employees that somehow need a union. Or that you have like fringe weirdos in the development studios that need to self-insert in the game, even though the market is against it. Because the market isn't relevant. They don't care about the customer. They care, it's like, how does the business treat the employees? Do the employee feel validated? And in order for the employee to feel validated, they gotta self-insert their insecurities and their own fictional persona into the content. And then they try to sell it to the market. And that's the issue. And until this mindset doesn't change, you are going to keep experiencing stagnation, because this wasn't the mindset in the 1960s, in the 1980s, or early 2000s. Dev excuse, meanwhile, is Yennefer forever 21? Probably, yeah, because she uses magic in order to look hot, so. Artemis Fowl, thank you for the $10. V, if you thought face tattoos were attractive and increases beauty, should it affect the relatability of your judgment on whatever someone is or is not generally attractive? Well, here's the thing, right? Like, let's say I live in a world where, and by the way, like, some facial tattoos can be attractive, like the Night Elf tattoos in Warcraft, right? Like, they can actually be attractive, while other facial tattoos, like the one Zero has from Mass Effect 2, are off-putting. So let me show you a difference. Let's look at a Night Elf from World of Warcraft, right? And let's compare her with Zero from alright. So Zero from Mass Effect. Jesus fucking Christ, she's so ugly, I even forgot. But to be fair, after speaking with Commander Shepard, you can actually tame the shrew, so. Oh, she doesn't have face tattoos. She has head tattoos. Jesus, I even forgot. Right, so these facial tattoos, they work. I mean, they're genuinely gorgeous, right? Like, they're beautiful. It works. It complements her aesthetics. They're cool. I've seen, like, female night elves that have even cuter tattoos. They're really nice. And then you also have this, right? Now, this is the opposite. This is just, ugh. But let's say I was attracted to this, right? Like, let's say I'm really into this, and I'm looking at the market, and I'm realizing that most people aren't into this. And so I would just shut the fuck up. Why? Because I would understand that if everyone caters to me personally, the game stops selling. And if the game stops selling, I don't get to play the IPs that I want. It's not fucking rocket science. I'm not the center of the fucking universe. If I like Mass Effect, and I notice that people are fed up with these types of characters to the point where they're boycotting games, it's not even a boycott, like they just don't want to buy them anymore, right? So if I'm into this, and I notice that, okay, well, people aren't buying the game, I would shut the fuck up, and I mean, you know what, maybe someone can mod this in my game. Maybe I'll just find other games that are more niche, that fit my preference, but it doesn't have to be every single fucking game. Because if it is, like, people are just going to stop buying it, and I'm not going to play the shit that I like. I mean, okay, sex scenes, right? Like, there's in every single RPG now. You got sex scenes in Baldur's Gate, you got sex scenes in Mass Effect, you got sex scenes in Dragon Age. Everything has sex scenes, right? But, like, let's say there's a culture where people are becoming puritanical, and if you have a sex scene in the game, it just fails. Like, it's not illegal. It's not that people would ban you or anything like that. No, you have a sex scene, it doesn't sell. Do you know what I would do? I would stop advocating for sex scenes. When people complain, I would just shut the fuck up. I would be like, okay, I don't want the entire IP to die. Like, maybe I could try and make the argument, you know, like I would argue with people. It's like, hey, sex scenes aren't the problem, blah, 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 blah. But if a game chooses not to add them, I wouldn't pressure the developers to add them in. Because I'm not fucking retarded. Nightmare, if on her skin she has a doodle, never ever let her touch your noodle. Oh my god, that's not true though. No. See, there's a difference. And I think like this exemplifies the difference very well. You can have tattoos if they're done with taste. So, like, if the girl has, like, a little heart tattoo on her ass cheek, or, you know, she's got, like, a little womb tattoo on her belly, like, something that you can cover, and you can only see if you're her boyfriend, you can only see it in intimate moments, stuff like that, that's actually kind of hot. I find that hot. Now, I don't know, like, if you don't find it hot, that's fine, you know, but I don't find a problem with it. What I do find the problem is this. Like, if you go overboard, you know, like, literally everything in excess is bad. I mean, to be fair, this design actually fits with the character. This is something that a bird does, you know, like a bird when it's in distress, it plucks the feathers. And it looks like a fucking chicken. This character was in distress. Like, she had a very difficult upbringing, a very hard life. And this is why it's her expression of suffering and pain. And you can see that she's emotionally damaged. And this is why this character actually fucking works, right? This is literally why the character fucking works in Mass Effect 2. But if you'd see it now, you'd call it woke. Because the character here was made with the aesthetics to work with the plot. Like, it actually, it doesn't just work with the plot, but like, she has a character that you kind of understand, and you're like, okay, she's a human being. If you look at modern AAA shit, you look at Abby from The Last of Us, there's nothing to understand there. It's just a piece of shit. Sadistic piece of shit. Motherfucker, like, she had the club, and she was in a room that was very cold. Like it was a very cold temperature room, right? Like it was snowing outside. There's no heating. Probably -10, -20 degrees. She has a club, starts beating Joel. By the time you arrive, she has her jacket taken off. Like she was doing such strenuous activity, beating a man that saved her life with the club, to the point where she had to take her clothes off because she was like filled with sweat. She couldn't even beat the main character afterwards. That's how tired she was. There's nothing redeeming about these characters. They're fucking inhumane. The social justice character design in video games are inhumane. That they have no humanity in them. Sorry, V, most 90% are a big no-no to me. Personally, nowadays, it signifies drama or undesirable character. Yeah, again, I'm not imposing my standards. If you don't like tattoos, you don't like tattoos. That's fine. I don't like piercings. So, I can understand where you're coming from. Isn't it ironic, says Ministry of Wrong Thing, that CD Projekt Red has City mocking religious superstitions. Meanwhile, there's literally people in the UK Parliament right now arguing for cousin marriages based on cultural differences, lol. Well, it's not really ironic because, like, it's different countries, right? Like, CD Projekt Red is from Poland. Well, technically it's from California, whatever. They have nothing to do with the UK. And so, see, I actually noticed this by talking with left-leaning people. Stereotyping them to an extent is okay, but, like, if you think that literally every one of them agrees about Islam and shit, no. So, I'm not going to attack them based on it. But thank you for the super chat, though. Todd, thank you for the $5. V, there's no de-aging magic in Witcher. De-aging magic in Witcher. But Yennefer also doesn't look forever 21 in Witcher 3, so Dev is still wrong. It's not de-aging. I think it's illusion magic. Like she's making herself, and I like, what wasn't this a thing? Like she was really ugly and hunched. And then once she becomes a sorcerer, she uses magic in order to make herself look beautiful. Like, she's not de-aging. She doesn't change the way she looks. It's kind of like the Naruto Hokage. What's her name? The one that's an elderly woman, but like she makes herself look young. Tsunade no Bacha. Yeah, so Tsunade, right? Tsunade from Naruto. I think that's like Yennefer. Like she's old, she has small boobs, but she uses illusion magic in order to make herself look young with big tits. Mocking religious beliefs isn't unusual for Witcher females. I remember one of the Scully Isle missions. Yen was a huge cunt to the locals. No. Like, I had no problem with the theme, right? Like, you have a spirit of the forest that's taking over some villagers, probably giving them a bountiful harvest and shit in exchange for human sacrifices. I'm not against that, and it's also lore established in the first Witcher, right? Like, you have the 3 crones, and in exchange for favors, they require, like, acts of mutilation from the villagers, like cutting off their ears and shit. This is actual Eastern European folklore, right? So, like, it's not really against religion, it's more like against superstition, I suppose, right? Because, like, it's not an official religion. It's not that everyone is worshipping the spirit of the forest. It's just, like, one secluded village that, you know, you can argue that they're victims because the supernatural entity can destroy them. So, like, they have no choice but either move away from the village or just live under the tyranny of the supernatural entity. But like, the problem is, and, you know, you can say that this reflects poorly on Ciri's character because you can't just go in and force people to live based on your morality and expect that you're going to have positive change. Because if Ciri doesn't go there and actually talks to the villagers and convinces them that they should be against the monster, if she actually, like, just goes in and slays the monster and then comes back, like, yeah, she's going to create panic, chaos, and probably the people are going to still continue the sacrifices afterwards, thinking that the monster is still alive, right? So, I mean, this can speak on her character. Like, maybe this is to show that she's not like Geralt, because Geralt would behave with more common sense, and it may show that she's young, whatever. I don't have a problem with that aspect of the storyline per se. What I do have a problem is the subversive aspect, because it constantly shows that only men are evil, and men are the ones pushing the women to do this, and but it's the fact that Ciri acts like a man, that she's stoic. She doesn't seem to have any grace, any femininity to her, right? Like she's Geralt with tits and less common sense, I guess. Villagers in Witcher 3 live fine. Comes Ciri and kills Buster. Villager immediately goes into chaos. They had that in Witcher 3 though. Like the whole thing with the Witcher that I liked is that there's no right or wrong decisions. The Baron, for example, right? You guys remember the Baron? Like he was harassing the local people and shit, and everyone hated him. So if you end up killing the Baron, what happens is that his men, his soldiers, take over. And they're actually worse than the Barons because they're like bandits. They just go in, they rape and they pillage. And so like, the idea of no right answer is something that is like Eastern European cynicism that is reflected through Polish culture. The American answer is social justice, right? Like you have a tyrant, you take over and you kill the tyrant and everyone lives happy. In Eastern European, it's like, no, there's consequences. And you know, like, maybe things will get better after a while, but you don't just kill the bad guy and all of a sudden everything goes fine. Like, this is Eastern European mindset. It's not woke. It's basically like the Polish, the Romanian, the Hungarian mindset. And so this is why we also believe that a little corruption is acceptable. It's because if you try to root out all corruption, you may end up, ironically, with even more. And so like it's not about like purging the world of every sin. It's like purging the world to where sin becomes at an acceptable level. Like you gotta admit that like people will do bad stuff, but like can we allow them to do bad stuff to the point where it doesn't hurt society and everyone is like reaching some mutual understanding? That's what these stories are supposed to say, right? Now. The thing that really bothered me about the particular story was the I guess like the moral casting on the village, you know, where the villagers are evil. It's like, well, they're faced with a supernatural entity that can kill them, and their only chance of survival is doing this. I mean, I don't think you can say they're pure evil. It's like they're just using the survival instinct. They raided anyway. They were just restrained under the Baron. Yeah, and when the Baron is gone, there's no one to restrain them anymore. The thing that really pisses me off, though, is Ciri becoming a Witcher. The reason she becomes a Witcher, right? It's not that the story is interesting with Ciri as a Witcher. It's that it's a diversity checkbox. It's because, you know, being a Witcher is something exclusive, and we can't have that. We can't have exclusivity. Like, everyone needs to be everything. A woman can do anything a man can do, and so she can actually become a Witcher. And so you end up with a situation where it doesn't even make it's not even says in the lore. Like Ciri shouldn't even try to become a Witcher. She should try to become a sorcerer. If you look at the world in Witcher, the Sorcerer Guild are the ones that are the most powerful. Like a group of women that is actually controlling all the kings and all the kingdoms from the shadows. And the Witchers aren't really that powerful on the grand scheme of things. Like, the Witchers are more like mercenaries. They're called to hunt monsters, and they're not that powerful. I mean, the only Witcher that's powerful is Geralt, and he's powerful because he has connections, because he knows people. But other than that, Geralt is really weak. Like, if a sorceress wants to kill Geralt, they could just do it. You know, they can curse him, they can hex him, they can throw a fireball from miles away. And so, Geralt isn't really that powerful. Like any sorcerer from the Lodge could kill him. But they choose not to. Either because he's too manly and they want to fuck him, or because he's got connections and he knows other sorcerers. And so, the idea of like Ciri becoming a Witcher is just something that's a diversity checkbox. It's for the social justice activist fanboys. The ignorant villagers must be forced to trust the science. No, I think like what Ciri should have done is to rule that village with an iron fist. Like, she should just come up and say, I am a Witcher, I am more powerful than any monster, I'm more powerful than your god, and I'm going to prove it. And then she goes out, comes with the beheaded head of the crone, and says, I am more powerful than this crowd. If you guys choose to keep doing life sacrifices, I will come here and I will slay the person that does it. And then she actually has to go through with it. If they actually keep doing the sacrifices, then she comes in and slays the villagers. And she gets to rule like a tyrant by fear, but the sacrifices must stop. And the followers of the villagers, the descendants, they will hate her. They will despise her. They will be like, we live under her oppression. Like, she enslaved our village. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter, because she did the right thing, the right moral thing. You know, this is the difference between a social justice activist and someone that actually does the right thing. The social justice activists, they want cred. They want street cred. They want renown. They want prestige. They want people to say, oh, they're a good person. They did the right thing. Meanwhile, the person doing the right thing is going to get hated. Is going to get despised. But you know what? The sacrifices must fucking stop. Yeah. Let's ban poker. Criminal pays it. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the girl that had sex with 100 men. Everyone is talking about her. I saw Sargon talking about her. I saw what's his name? Asmongold talking about her. Everyone is talking about her. So let's see, Sargon of Akkad. Let's talk about. Here we go. 100 men in a day.
Very well.
I think, you know, the reality is that there's a lot of women that probably have sex with more than 100 men in their life. And there's probably men that have sex with more than 100 women in their life. But I think it's the in one day part that's shocking, and it's also the fact that it's presented to the media. The fact that it's a public spectacle and people view it as a good thing. I think this is what caused shock. But anyway, let's watch the thing.
See people in the chat asking, must we discuss this? Yeah, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth. There's a lot to talk about here. And I think it's actually genuinely something that is worth. I just actually do want to actually address it, because there are so many dimensions to this that people are coming at from all angles. And so I wanted to cover a bunch of them. But I also wanted to give my view on it, because I'm the father of 2 daughters, right?
You know, like, if I watched this, I'm not even kidding. If I watched this last year, I would be like, oh, fucking hell. But, like, when you actually have a child and you're holding a baby in your hand and, you know, it says Dada for the first time, and then you watch as they start taking their first steps and stuff. If you knew that 20 years in the future, that person is going to end up like this, to call it devastating would be putting it mildly. It's I mean, I don't even know how I can compare it. I suppose it's like if I found out, you know, like you have someone from the future and tells me like, V, 20 years from now, your son is going to enroll in the military and he's going to get blown up by shrapnel. You know, and you hear that. And you know, like, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just like, that's just what's going to be. Or he's going to enroll in the military and his left testicle is going to be blown up. Now, at least the thing that you can say is that, well, he died for his country. No, you lost the war, V. You lost the war. It's kind of like that. But I feel like, in this situation, if you have a daughter that does this, like, then there's no string that you can latch on for sanity, right? Like, she didn't do it for the country. She did. I mean, maybe you can say, well, she's a multi-millionaire, and maybe that's why she did it, right? She did it to become a multi-millionaire, and maybe, like, your grandson is going to have a good life because he's getting raised in a rich family. I don't know. I'm trying to cope. I'm trying to think, like, what would a father in this situation tell himself in order to be able to wake up in the morning? See, you're saying that this is why more women shouldn't have rights. But what about the men that did it? What about the men that gave super chats and funded this? What about the men that documented this? Why are we taking accountability from half the population? No, everyone is accountable in this. Everyone played a part. If you had a moral society, see, this is something else. You cannot have corruption unless you invite it in. If you had a moral society where 100 men chose not to partake in this, then this wouldn't have happened. Don't give me that shit. Oh, this is all of women's fault. What was her father? No, men are to blame as well. Like, I think men and women complete each other. They're not competing with each other. And so, like, there's many factors that cause this to happen. But then it's also the thing, and this is the white pill, if you want. Britain, if I'm not mistaken, has a population of like 80 million people. And so you will find outliers. You will find individuals that do this. Like, notice there's not a lot of women lining up in order to take the 100 cock challenge. By the way, there was a guy made a TikTok video. And he asked his wife how many partners, so not his wife, his girlfriend, like how many partners she had. And I think she said like 25 or something. Like, it wasn't that a high number for a woman in 2024 if you go by the average. And so the guy, what the guy did is he measured the average length of a penis. And he measured the average times a person thrusts inside a woman during like 4 minutes of intercourse. And then he took like all the penises and all the thrusts and put them in a line, and he was driving the car. It's like, this is the mileage. How many penises? He was very distraught by the finding. Dude, 25 can't be high because I'm close to that. And I'm a man. Shut the fuck up. It's not high. Reigning terror, Novi. At the end of the day, it's her body. She decided to let those men have the way with her by blaming the guys who took up the other. You take the responsibility of the woman. No. Both are responsible, Reigning terror. The woman and the guys are responsible. Reigning terror, you know what? Fuck it. I'll ask you a question. Would you be the 98th guy? Would you sign up for it? I have a feeling you wouldn't. If you have a sexy woman from OnlyFans and she says, Reigning terror, I need your help. I need to break the 100 penis challenge. I need you to compete. I just need you to take a STD test. And I need you to be here and you get 2 minutes with me. What would you say, Reigning terror? What would you say if your son did that? Would you be comfortable with that? Like, if your son signed up and he's like the 98th guy, unless your son is the number 1 guy, then we can have a different conversation. But if you, like, yeah, like he's the 98th person that chose the hamburger, right? Would you actually go there and be like, okay, so like this lady, this OnlyFans lady is letting me have her for 2 minutes and there's 100 other guys. Would you take that? I have a feeling you wouldn't. So no, you know what? I have stigma for every single one of those men that went there. Just like I have stigma for men that turned to prostitution. It's not a big stigma, by the way. It's not a huge stigma. But I am judging. I'm like, No, she did test them. And she had to, right? Because I think like the documentary people insisted. I would say, son, agree to it, then don't show up. I think she had like a plan for this. I think like there were 100 people that she chose to go with, and then there was like a waiting list. So like if you signed up for it and you were like number 125, then you knew that there may be a chance you could still get in. Like if 25 people didn't show up, you are basically summoned there and you had to wait. Nightmare, why do I keep missing your super chats? How do you super chats me in such a stealthy way? Thank you for the $5, Nightmare. I appreciate it. I would sign up for her 1,000 man list, but you have to join her OnlyFans, and I wouldn't want to spend money on her. That's just gross. I mean, at that point, you just get, like 1,000 challenge. At that point, I think like even a prostitute is a better investment. Like, she probably, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like, do prostitutes have sex with 1,000 men? I think they do, right? But at least you buy the time to properly enjoy yourself, and it's not in one day. Like, she probably cleaned up. Imagine being guy number 957. Rating terror, nope, I wouldn't, nor would I advise him to, but I'm saying her body, her choice, like the feminists say. I will go into that in a little bit. Who wants to walk past another man to the bedroom knowing he's still dripping? Oh my goodness. The GIF, what is with that mental image? Good God. I can't remove it now, holy shit. Yeah, I want to talk about the moral argument, and like how see, here's the thing. Why do we moralize other people? The reason we moralize other people, at least the reason it should be, is because we generally want to help them, right? So it depends. Like, do you want to go on Twitter and farm likes and retweets and be like, yeah, this is immoral. What they did is immoral. And everyone is like, wow, you're such a moral person. Wow, you called it out. Is this what you want, or do you actually want to stop this shit from happening? And the answer is, if you want to stop this shit from happening, you need to learn how to appeal to these people, right? You can't use religion to appeal to them because they're atheists. Like, if they don't believe in God, there is absolutely nothing you can say from a religious perspective to convince them. It's like having a Muslim come up to you and telling you to stop drinking or stop eating pork. Like, there's no arguments that they can make to you unless you believe in Islam that will convince you, right? So you gotta train yourself, and I'm actually teaching you now how to persuade people, right? Just listen to what I'm saying because it's helpful. You gotta start thinking like the person. You gotta put yourself in their shoes and try to think like, what type of arguments can you make in order for them to actually listen to you. And so if you go and you tell these people the religious argument, it doesn't work. If you try to tell them that it's bad for them, probably doesn't work. They're making millions of dollars. Like, unless you can offer them more in order to not do it, you can't. And so the only thing you can do is to appreciate that this girl did what she did, so that you can use her as an example. And if you have a daughter, which is a teenager, you can show her the before and the after picture. And you can show, look, this lady decided to sleep with 100 men. Look how she's feeling afterwards. Why do you think that is? And then you can actually have a conversation based around that. Why do you think she feels like that? I mean, she made millions of dollars. She got fame. She got attention. Why do you think she's crying now? Why do you think she's breaking into tears? Why is she unhappy? Like, she did all that. Wow. And then if you have like a conversation like that with a person that you are actually related to, or they actually trust you, or you're actually friendly with them, you may actually convince them that it's a bad thing. Without having to use any type of arguments, without having to make it illegal, without anything like that. And the answer is, the reason she's crying is because she abused herself. In fact, I could put it in a more severe way, but I don't know if it brushes against the YouTube's TOS so much. But that's the answer. She abused herself. So yes, she consented. Yes, everyone consented. But based on her own reaction, based on how she behaved after the event, that is the only explanation that I can have. And it doesn't need to make logical sense. You just there is something. The reason why everyone on the political spectrum was horrified by this event is because it transcends philosophy and it goes to something primal. It goes to something that all humans have. And the reason women aren't supposed to be promiscuous isn't religious, isn't anything like it's because it's literally bad for their psyche. And, everything in moderation. Okay, you go clubbing, you sleep with one guy, you go clubbing again, you sleep with another, and you can convince yourself that it's fine. It's like, okay. But if you do it with 100 men, you go to this level of excess, you realize why the rules are there to begin with. They weren't there to oppress you, they were there to protect you. And I think the best example out of this is a parable that a religious person said when I was to church. An Orthodox priest said this, and it was that a family lived in the middle of the mountains, and they were surrounded by wolves. And so one day, the man decided to build a fence in order to protect his family from the wolves. And the wolves, realizing they can't get into the house and they can't get into the farm anymore, they decided to go somewhere else. And so years later, the husband passed away, and there were no wolves. And one day the wife thought that the fence was there to keep her in, that the fence was designed to oppress her, so she tore down the fence. And then the wolves came and they killed the wife. And the moral of the story is that there are certain rules that exist in society which are there to protect us from various things. And we may not know or understand why the rules were made. Some of them may make sense, others may not. But if you try to tear down the system, you may find out that the rules were there to actually keep you safe from the wolves. They weren't there to oppress you. And so I think like this type of conversation is a lot more impactful than shaming them, than saying, oh my God, why? How could you do that? I think if you actually, if you have a young person, like you're a father and you're sitting there with your teenage daughter that's rebellious and shit, and you're just having like these types of conversations that transcend religion or philosophy, and it's not like, oh, this is how things should be, oh, you don't understand, I know better. I don't think they're very effective. I think like trying to put yourself in their shoes and explain that it's for their own good, and sometimes even say, look, maybe I can't explain it, maybe I can't articulate it, but like trust me, doing this is the better way. If you do it the opposite, look, this person tried doing the opposite and look where they're at. I think it's more impactful. Rating Terror, thank you for the $5. V, if you wanted to fix the problem, you have to restrict their choices and have a father in the home, but feminism and the government ruined it. The thing is, like, women restrict their choices. Like, in Eastern Europe, it's normal for the mother to rein in the daughter if she has excesses. Like, I remember my cousin, when her mom was still alive, if she wanted to go partying at 12, like, mother would be like, no, you're coming back home at 8. Well, like, mothers used to be able to parent, and they would realize, okay, well, I was a young girl too, I did a lot of stupid shit, I don't want my daughter to come home pregnant, so they too would partake into discipline. I don't know how it's like in the West, I generally don't know. Hello, Rivers of Hate. You don't have to do any of that if they were the fathers properly as intended. I don't know. Mother to daughter is a bit different. I mean, what is the... Okay, so I genuinely believe that the degeneracy of humans is possible, right? Like, if you have a human, let's say you have a baby, it can grow up to be a pillar of the community, or it can grow up to be the opposite, right? So let's call the opposite like degenerating. Like you degenerate as a human. And so men and women, they have like different ways of degenerating. For a woman, it's usually becoming a woman of low moral fiber, right? Like if you become a prostitute or something like that, then in all cultures, in all societies, it's usually considered that you've hit rock bottom. But for a man is to become a thug, right? So like for a man is to become a violent animal, a brute, a person that just goes out seeking conflicts. That's the self-destructive behavior of a man. And so I would think that what happened to this lady, where she's like, I'm going to sleep with 100 men. Imagine if a man took part in a competition where he was like, I'm going to box 100 women. And there is a reason why in a society we don't allow men to hit women. And you know, like some men would think, oh, well, that's not fair, that's oppressive, blah, blah, blah. But like imagine if, you know, like someone did partake into such a competition and somehow it did manage to get a documentary and everyone is consenting, everyone is signing consent forms, right? And you're the man that's in a boxing ring, like in a sports event, versus 100 women. I guarantee to you that experience, if you pull it off, is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. Like, you're not going to be able to go to sleep. It's going to break you as a man. Like, and you won't be able to explain why that is. You're just going to feel like the inherent wrongness of it. And the reason I know this is because there are soldiers that fought in Middle Eastern countries where they actually were under fire and they had to shoot a woman because she had a gun, or they had to shoot a child because they picked up a gun. And the soldiers come visibly shaking. Like, you have these soldiers and they shot like many other men and they had no problem. But like the moment they shoot a woman or the moment they shoot a child, they're visibly shaking. It's the same thing if they shoot an elderly person. Obviously not everyone, right? Like, obviously there are exceptions and outliers and people that are psychopath and unhinged and women that do manage to sleep with 100 men. Like, you have the outliers. But most people, most humans, like, can relate to that. Like, you can understand why a soldier that fought and maybe like killed 50 people is visibly shaken because like he had to shoot a kid, right? So I get that. These rules are there in society to protect the perpetrator as well as the victim, if it makes sense. They're not just there, you know, because like some religious bigot came up with them. The sniper in Full Metal Jacket. That is a good point, yes. She is the results of parents who put no limits. See, this is not correct. I know people that behave like her with parents that put so many limits that the entire life of a kid was like a military drill. It's like, you gotta wake up at this hour. These are the shows you're allowed to watch. You gotta do your homework between this and then. Any deviation leads to severe punishment. And then, like in Eastern Europe, I knew friends, I knew people that had parents which were incredibly controlling, insanely controlling. And so what ends up happening is that they miss their teenage years. Because like when you're a teenager, you're supposed to make dumb mistakes. They miss their teenage years. And then when they go to university, they're finally outside of the control of their parents. Or they're 18. They're finally outside of the control of their parents. And then they do all of the excesses. They don't know how to add makeup. So they will add like the most provocative sexual makeup you can imagine. They will wear the most revealing clothing you can imagine. And in my country, it's okay if you do that when you're a teenager. Right? Because it's like you're a dumb teenager. People give you more leeway. But if you do that at 25 or 24, you're an embarrassment of yourself. You have to do this shit in order to get attention. So no, I don't think that it's only because they have parents that are too permissible. I also think it's like parents that are too restrictive. I think, like, again, as I mentioned, you gotta understand the person. Treat the person as an adult. And try to make them understand why doing this is wrong, without having to seem like authoritarian or controlling. Like try to make them believe that they came up with the answer. That they themselves come to realization that doing this is bad. Don't tell them it's just bad and leave it at that. Like try and help them realize by themselves why they wouldn't want to be in this situation.
So this kind of thing really does play on my mind. Because the last thing I would want to see is one of my daughters doing something like this. Right. So it's just sad. Karamba, you're in the chat. It's just sad, right? Everything about this is sad and a damning indictment of the state of our civilization generally. And
I had a talk with Sargon and other people, and I was like saying, look, you lost the common worker. Like, you lost the common man Ever since you went on Lotus Eaters, your content feels more academic. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just like it's a different audience. Like, I used to be able to get a guy from the street and show him your videos, and they would immediately click. And now, the way you talk, the way you present yourself, most people will find it pretentious, or it's just, they don't vibe with it. And I think when you use grandiose things, it's like, oh, our civilization. You know, like, this is internet talk. Like, this works on Twitter, this works on YouTube. But in reality, most people care about their immediate family. That's it, right? So if you want to appeal to the man, you don't talk about the civilization. You talk about how it affects his family. It's just like little things like this, you know? Again, it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just an observation that there's a different demographic now. And it's also important to know, like, when you're talking, who are you talking with? If it's on the internet, yes, you can talk about the Western civilization and blah, blah, blah. But when you're talking to random people on the street in real life, you're at a Christmas table, right? Don't say civilization. Don't use big boy words like that. Just say, you know, like, how it affects them personally. Like, try to think. Because this is, you know, literally the midwit is struggling to reach you. Like, the midwit is trying to affect you by saying, like, how does this affect me personally? The midwit is struggling, like, it's craving information from you. It's craving wisdom. And you're, like, talking about civilization and shit. They're not going to get it. You need to actually figure out every single thing and try to explain it to them how it does affect them personally. And I think I did a good job by explaining. It's like, yeah, like, look, this girl, after she took 100 penises, she's crying. Why do you think that is? And then the midwit goes like, okay, if I take 100 penises, I'm going to end up crying too. Maybe I shouldn't take 100. Maybe I should take 25. And you still, you know, like, you're not going to get what you want. But you're still lowering the harm. And hopefully someone else can come after you and they can lower the harm a little bit further from 25 to 15. Right? Like, otherwise you get the 100. You don't get what you want. You get the 100. It's how life works. This is the Eastern European mindset. It's like acknowledging how life works. And if she doesn't take any penis, then that's a miracle. Can happen. Miracles do happen. But, like, you gotta train yourself, because otherwise you go fucking insane. If you constantly think about perfection, if you constantly think about uprooting all the evil in the world, you're going to see it doesn't happen, and you're going to drive yourself insane. So your brain is just as important as her vagina being protected from 100 penises.
What social media has done as well. Right, so this, from 100 angles, yeah. This is something that generally I find quite depressing, actually, right? So, yeah, there are so many things about this that I find just gross. And so I guess we'll just go through this Daily Star article. So for anyone outside of Britain, the Daily Star is... It's a left-wing...
It's the common man's paper, Sargon. It's the midwit paper. Stop ignoring the midwits. I don't know why people ignore midwits. They're so fucking efficient. And like, the left understand... Well, actually, the left is losing the midwits as well. The midwits are important because they, too, have a say in the way the country is run, believe it or not. They pay taxes, they vote, they have a say in things, they organize, they can do movements... Stop dismissing the midwit. You know what? The midwit is actually more important. They're like the resource. Like, if you have a political movement, if you don't have the midwits, you're not going to achieve any change. Because they're the numbers. They're the armies. They're like the faceless soldiers that march behind the officers, right? The officers are the intellectuals, the people in charge, blah, blah, blah. But the midwits are the foot soldiers. They don't think, they do shit. And so, if you constantly dismiss the midwit culture, you alienate the midwit. They're the normies, I guess, how we call them. The normies. The normies are very important. Like, right now, in the gaming world, right? You have the social justice and the religious people, like, fighting for control. It's like, who's going to win? Is it going to be the Melody Mac? Is it going to be the woke terror? No one knows. The answer is who's going to get the midwits on their side. That's who's going to win. How many roosters have you taken? Did you beat her record? No, I took vaginas. I didn't take roosters. I didn't break her record. But if I were to count, like, I'm in my late 30s, right? So I had a lot of time before my wife. After my wife, I only had my wife. I'm not even lying. Like, she's not even listening to the stream, so I have no reason to lie. After my wife, I've been faithful. But before my wife, yeah, I was at the age of 20. I think I slept with 20 women, give or take. Not proud of it, and I gotta say, it's actually not a good thing, because the more you have, like, here's my take on it, and this is what I will tell my son, and I don't know if he will listen or not. But if he manages to only sleep with 15, I will call myself a good parent. Right, so again, like, we lower. Like, that's what I will tell in my head. I will tell myself, you know what, I did good. From 25, we went to 15. That's progress. Like, hopefully my grandson is going to go down to 5. The act of sex is supposed to create affection towards the other person. Like, it's something magical. The first time you do it, it genuinely is magical. And it creates a bond between two people. The more you do it, the less magical it becomes. Like, the mystery of it goes away. It's just like a pleasurable massage, if you will. And if you just happen to be with a lot of women and you do it with a lot of girls, all the mystical aspects of it goes away. It just becomes like a physical thing. And then it's very difficult for you to connect. So I'm really glad that I managed to find my wife and I went out of that. But even as a man, right? Like, being the Andrew Tate, being the womanizer, being the guy that takes that crushes puss and stuff, like, it's not a healthy lifestyle. And so I hope that my son doesn't follow in my footsteps. Yeah, it's not even like post-nut clarity, because I mean, I had those, you know, like, there were some women that normally I shouldn't have had anything to do with, but, like, I was like, well, there's no one else tonight, so might as well. And then you have, like, the post-nut clarity. And it's also the emotional damage you inflict on other people, right? Because, like, some women, maybe they expected a relationship. Maybe they expected more. And then when you ghost them or you stop talking with them, you know, like, even if they consent and they're like, oh, they understand, like, you make it very specific and you tell them, look, I'm not into a relationship. I just want to have fun. And they agree to that. You still get the feeling that they didn't really appreciate it. Like, they're not happy that you're not introducing them to your friends. They're not happy that you're not hanging around with them outside of that. So, you know, like, when you think back of all the stuff you did, it's not pleasant. Yeah, it's like it goes even beyond post-nut clarity. And so this is why I blame men as well. Because it takes two to tango. It's not a one thing. It's like, yeah. Al Bundy is my spirit animal regarding sexuality while I'm married with children. I wouldn't say that the idea of just sex is a lie, because I had women that were like that. Like, it really depends from the person to person. The problem is you never know, right? Like, you genuinely never know. And so, like, sleeping around is not something that I would encourage men to do either. But I do understand it's happening, and I do understand it will never stop. Like, I also don't want a society like Sharia, you know? It's more like a society where people just are aware that what they are doing has consequences, and they choose not to do it. Like, that would be the best society.
But it's a left-wing rag, right? A left-wing shit rag for the plebs.
Don't call the midwits the plebs. Oh my god.
But I think it's left-wing anyway. Or am I thinking of... Maybe I'm thinking of the Mirror. I think this is a left-wing version. But basically you get, like, the Sun...
It's like a sensationalist newspaper. It's like the Quartering, if you had, like, a newspaper. Like, it's not left-wing or right-wing. It's basically, like, whatever is popular with the plebs, as you said, right? If the public thinks one way, that's what they're going to post. If the opinion shifts, they're going to post that. They're trying to stay away from, like, controversial topics, and they talk about more, like, sensational news.
The Star.
Why the fuck do I know this? I'm from Romania. Holy shit, why do I know the press in your country?
The Mirror. You get a few others. I don't know if it's left-wing, actually. It might not be one of the left-wing ones. I never read it, right? I never read it.
Such elitism. Jesus fucking Christ. You get a diploma and you become an elitist. Just, like, connect with the normal folks every now and then. Like, if you want to actually create cultural change, you gotta understand what the elitists think. You gotta understand what the midwits think. Depending in your country, like I, for example, in Romania, do not give a fuck what the Zoomer think, because like they vote, I think, in a percentage of like 6 to 15%. Like their voting turn up is so small, it's completely negligible. Like if I talk with a person that does politics, and it's like, well, what do the students want? I'm like, don't fucking care. Like, what do you mean? They have like 6 to 15% show up, ignore them. The people that vote are between the age of 30 and 50, like represent them. This is also something that you need to understand, right? Like political parties, if you're not supporting them, they have no reason to support you back. Like if you want change, right? Like if I was in Britain and I genuinely wanted change, I would try to convince people to get inside labor. No, seriously, like that's how you get the change. You get people and you subvert labor from inside. Now, of course, you would need a lot of people and you need a big movement, but you'd literally have to join. And then you'd see that suddenly they give a shit about you. Suddenly they actually do listen to what you think. Probably in Britain it's a little bit more difficult because their political system is more bureaucratic and it's more about the civil service. So it would probably be harder to subvert them that way. But that's how things are done in my country. Like, if you want the party to listen to you, you gotta put members in it. You gotta, like, have the members support that party. And once you support them, they're reliant on you. Governments do this shit all the fucking time. Why do you think the UK is sending money as foreign aid to India or African countries? Do you think, like, those countries, like, genuinely need the aid, or, like, Britain is doing this out of compassion? No, they're doing it. So, like, they're sending money to Pakistan, right? And one day, they need something from Pakistan. Like maybe there's a policy that goes against Britain's interest, or maybe there's a... And the British government goes like, hey, do you want the aid to stop? And then you're placing the politicians in a difficult situation, because like they're usually pocketing some of that money. And they're like, oh, well, shit, right? And now they care about you. But if you don't give them anything, and you're just telling them, yeah, you're not going to pass this, they're going to tell you to fuck off. And so, this is why it's important as a political leader to actually understand how everyone thinks and to actually be able to give them something. Because it's a two-way street. If you're not giving them anything, then they have no reason to give you anything either. There's no moral consideration here. It's like, what can you do for me? It's literally like that. That's how politics is. And I think like a lot of Westerners don't understand this. Do you know who understands this? Trump. Trump understands this perfectly. It's why he's so fucking effective.
Nice shirt. Well, thank you. I'm not wearing my tie, unlike at the office. I took the tie off. But the response to this has been mad. And I'm looking at this and like, okay, if you were to be like, right, okay, I want freedom, and then something like this happens, do we then have a conversation about the limits of freedom? Right? Is this a good time for a conversation about the limits of freedom? Because it seems...
The thing is, like, how do you stop it? like, what do? Do you put her in prison? Like, what should the punishment? What should the punishment be? And just so you know, there are countries that would put her in prison. There are countries that would do even worse. Right? Now, my take on it is that she is already used as a negative example, and that it's an outlier. Like, you have 60 million people and one person does this. Now, if it actually becomes a trend, if you actually have like a lot of women that do this, well, then the problem would be that even if you ban it and they're making millions of dollars while doing it, they will just go out of the country. And so I don't think the answer to this is legal. I don't think the answer to this is shaming, because she's already being shamed. I think the answer to this is good parenting. Like, what it affects you is you're afraid that your daughter will do this. And so it's up to you to be a good father and realize that you need to treat your daughter as an adult and talk to her and convince her not to do this. And you also need to talk to your son and convince them not to partake in this. Like, you need to convince your son that OnlyFans is bad, that giving body to OnlyFans is bad. And in order to convince them, it's actually quite difficult, right? But I don't watch OnlyFans. So if I don't watch OnlyFans and I'm a man, then it's possible. And so you need to instill morality in your kids. And if everyone does that, then you end up with this thing not existing. And if this thing does exist, it's like, well, not my daughter, not my fucking problem. You got to come to the realization, because that's probably what she would think of you if you were stuck in a ditch. It's usually like this, you know, and this is like very anti-American, but like what I'm saying is very Eastern European. And Americans like don't get Eastern Europe at all. But you as a man, like, you can influence your family, your friends, and your neighborhood. That's it. And outside of that, I don't fucking care. And I can influence my family and my neighborhood quite well. But like, these are the limits of my abilities. Because the thing is, like, let's say you say that this should be criminalized, right? What if 5 years from now you find out that your son is now in prison because he supported this? What do you do then, right? Like, you thought, oh, okay, well, we'll just ban it, problem goes away, right? And then 5 years from now you find out that your son now has a criminal record because he did a sex crime, he went onto one of these websites and he gave money to an OnlyFans girls, and now he's under police investigation. Are you happy with that? How do you think the people that have their daughters in prison are going to feel because you managed to pass the legislation? What do you think they will do to you if they find out that you supported that? Right? So, I don't know, like, sometimes banning isn't the option. It's the simple one. It's the simple solution for midwits that are thinking that it's a quick fix. And then you end up with what the Americans went with the prohibition. It's like, alcohol is bad, the one is denying it. Alcohol leads to excesses, the one is denying it. Let's ban alcohol. Okay, now you end up with sons imprisoned. You end up with daughters imprisoned. You end up with the mafia. You end up with a parallel economy. You end up with even worse situations. And so you realize that banning is not always the fix. Yeah, like, needing external control means that you realize your society has very low self-control. Like, you need to discipline people to have control and self-discipline. That's the answer. Sargon is using the same arguments as leftists. I don't know what to say. Again, like, the problem is that censorship should be like the last solution. Like, you should try and attempt a variety of factors before you get to that point. You should have the mindset that some corruption will always exist. Like, it's never going to be zero. But, you know, like okay, this lady that took 100 cocks, can she not take just 10? Like, if she took 10 cocks, would that be okay? You know, like, you need to come to the realization, like, is a world where some girl that I don't know somewhere out there is taking 10 cocks. Is that fine with? Can I live like that? Right? Like, you need to come to grips with reality that evil will exist. No society in human history has abolished all evil. Such a thing cannot happen. So we need to come to terms. It's like, what exactly is it committed? How harmful is it actually for the general public? And how much of it should we tolerate? And the answer is never zero. Like, some of it should be tolerated simply because... Now, obviously, if it's a really hideous crime, like if it's something that's beyond the pale, then sure. But if you're going to try to police everything, you do not have enough prisons, and you do not have enough police force, because the police force is limited. So if you just... Like in Romania... There are 200,000 women that are doing video chat right now. And then there's probably 200,000 people that are providing auxiliary support. Like managers, accountants, lawyers, like people associated, technicians, the people that run the companies, right? So there's probably 400,000 people in the video chat. We do not have enough prisons. Like, if you were to criminalize this, we do not have enough prisons. And then you'd send the police officers after this, while actual things like crime and hate speech wouldn't be prosecuted. And so, yeah, exactly what I'm saying. Like, 10 in a day is bad, but it doesn't spark the revulsion of 100. So now we can have a conversation. Now we can actually have a conversation. Like, how do we convince people that, you know, you are, like, kind of like drinking, right? Look, you're allowed to drink, just don't drink and drive. You're allowed to drink, just don't drink yourself in a coma, right? So, like, now you can have a conversation where, like, look, we as a society, we guarantee you some freedoms. And it's better living here than living in China or in the Middle East. But we still have some limits. So I think going back to Sargon and what he says, you know, like his conversation, it's like, what do you do with freedom?
The Mirror. You get a few others. I don't know if it's left wing, actually. It might not be one of the left wing ones. I never read it, right? I never read it. Nice shirt. Well, thank you. I'm not wearing a tie, unlike at the office. I took the tie off. But the response to this has been mad. And I'm looking at this as, okay, if you were to be like, right, okay, I want freedom, and then something like this happens, do we then have a conversation about the limits of freedom, right?
Yeah, so like, there are limits to freedom. I agree. And again, like, our society should be enticing because we allow more freedom than China and we allow more freedom than the Middle East. But we should have a limit, right? So, like, this is what I take, like, 100 too many. 10, maybe it's acceptable. It's still bad. We're still not glorifying it. We're still not praising it. But we understand that, like, we can't control 20 million people. Like, we cannot physically instate a suppressive apparatus where, like, 20 million people are controlled to the extent where this thing doesn't happen, like with 10 doesn't happen at all. So okay, fine, 10. And then you as a person, you get your freedoms, you can do the shit you want, but you also have responsibilities. And I think, like, this is how the society used to be when I grew up. And the problem is that we removed the excess. It's now, no, it's actually okay if you drink yourself and you collapse on the streets of London. Like, people find that funny, amusing. The press doesn't shame it. You have someone that takes 100 cocks a day. Okay, well, I mean, like, it's there, right? So, like, the excess all of a sudden isn't punished. No, like, the excess should be punished. Like things that are taken to the extreme. And I think, like, they are punished by themselves. Like this lady, if she ever stops doing OnlyFans, like, she will always be coined with her face attached to this. And so, like, she is going to experience the stigma, and she is an example of why other ladies shouldn't do it and why they shouldn't behave this way. But the solution is always parenting, is always grassroots. It's rarely top down in these situations. Having a balance between the Dionysian side and the Apollonian side is the way for people to gain self-control. I do agree. I said the solution the other day, state mandate chastity cages. You don't have the number of cages. And what do you do with the people that break the rule? Do you imprison them? You don't have the number of prisons. Like they're not practical solutions. It's not every woman in Romania. We got like 20 million people. A couple of 100,000 isn't that many. No amount of corruption is acceptable in the civilized world, then the world isn't civilized. Name me a country. Name me one country where you don't have corruption. Like, seriously, give me an example. Like, I want to know this country, and it has to, like, don't give me the Vatican, right? Like, don't give me, like, a micronation or some shit. No, like, I want an actual country that has a population of 20 million people, where you don't have any corruption. Even in the video game, like, this is what I like about Civ 4. Like, it was impossible to lower corruption to 0. You get, like, I will tell you what I think. What I think is, like, what's good for my family, right? Like, where is a country that I want to raise my family in? That's the only question that I ask. And so, you know, I wouldn't want to raise my family in California, yeah? I wouldn't want to raise my family in Russia. I'm happy with raising my family in Romania. I'm comfortable with the way my country is. It's not perfect. There's always things that I can complain about. There's always things that I can bring up. But I think in Romania, you know, outside the international conflicts, which I cannot control, obviously, you know, being close to Russia is like a geographical reality. There's nothing I can do about it. Being connected to the European Union is also a geographical reality. But like right now, yeah, I think like my son can have a good future in this country, and that's literally all that matters. I don't give a fuck about the corruption, like how many people do video chat in my country, how many people do whatever. I am confident that even if my kid is going to go to a school where people are doing drugs, I am so fucking confident in my abilities to parent that I don't think he's going to do drugs. I think like even if the people around him are trying to egg him on, he's going to say no. That's how confident I am in my parenting abilities. And that's what matters to me. I don't give a shit about the corruption. You know, everyone else can do drugs. My kid isn't. And so with this mindset, I think it's a more realistic mindset. I think it's more a pragmatic one. It's like the things that I can influence. And it's based on stoicism as well. It's the philosophy of stoicism. I can't change the world. Like, what am I going to do? Go to the drug dealer and tell them to stop selling crack? Salon, Kumar Legion will prevail. Gunnar hordes won't be denied. They have tried throughout human history to stop this, and it just doesn't work. You just, like, here's the thing, you know, like, you can stop people from selling cocaine. Like, that is something you can do because the plantation of the plant looks in such a way that you can see it from satellites. And even then, you know, like, you plant it and your neighbors spot it. So, like, it can be regulated. But if you try to regulate things like sex and alcohol, I mean, for fuck's sakes, like, literally anyone can buy fruits and do it in their basement. Like, how are you enforcing it? If you try to regulate sex, like, literally anyone can have sex and videotape them. How are you enforcing it, right? So, like, there's the question of enforcement. Let me put it this way, all right? Like here's why banning doesn't work. There is no place more controlled in the United States than a prison, right? Like, prisons have guards, they have cameras, they have strict rules, and yet they have contraband. They have drugs, and they have porn. How did they manage, chat? How did they manage to sneak in porn magazines in a prison? Huh? Cave drawings will continue forevermore again. If you are heavily armed, the drug dealer would do anything. Yeah, but like, here's the problem. I'm one guy, and chances are the drug dealer has more than one guy next to him, and they're all heavily armed. And so we reach a point where I'm just one man, and they're like 20 or 30. And they have been shooting at their men in their gang wars and stuff. So I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not sure that actually would work. Due to a lack of will to stop it. See, now that's an interesting question. Why is there a lack of will to stop it? Well, the reality is that you can ban something by signing a piece of paper, but like, will your enforcers comply? Like, do people genuinely believe that they should take a woman that does OnlyFans and put her in prison? Like, is this what people believe? How do you think they feel when their daughters are being taken to prison? What do you think happens to the police that does comply and takes someone's daughter and puts her in prison? What do you think happens to him? And so, like, this is why banning doesn't work. It's simply because you can sign the piece of paper, but without enforcement, without people agreeing with you, without having the culture that justifies it, no one is going to enforce it. The reason it works in the Middle East is because of Islam. They unironically believe that God will punish them if they allow it. So, like, if they think that there is a supernatural entity that is capable of inflicting harm upon the nation unless you comply, then yeah, they're going to think things differently. But like, in America, you do not have a culture like Islam that is dominating the nation to such extent. I have relatives who would smuggle drugs into their boyfriends in prisons in their kids' diapers. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. She has long made the Faustian bargain, and now she has to live with the consequences. That is so true. Yeah, I think like there's no punishment in the world. There's no prison. There's no fine that will make the lady regret what she did more than what she's doing. And the thing is, like, people are saying, well, now she's going for 1,000. Yeah, this is called cope. Like, she can go for 10,000. It doesn't fucking matter. I guarantee to you, if you have a conversation with her, like, heart to heart, if Jesus actually turns out to be real and she goes into heaven, like, she will regret what she did. Not because anyone is shaming her, but, like, deep inside her heart. And I could see this from her body language. That's how I know. It's not like I'm mind reading or I'm projecting. No, I can see it from her body language. Like, she broke in tears during the interview. If you're breaking in tears during the interview, when the world is watching and you need to show composure, how do you think she feels when she goes to sleep at night? And so, like, this is going to haunt her. I guarantee to you. That, like, it's like a soldier that has PTSD. There is no punishment that you can do bigger than what she inflicted on herself. It works in the Middle East as well because they have huge drug problem. They just replace alcohol with weed. Yeah, see, this is another reason why Eastern European believes that some corruption is acceptable. The reality is, like, what you're actually trying to crack down isn't pornography. What you're trying to crack down is actually vice. And people have vices. Now, people don't have the same vices. You know, someone may have the concept of watching OnlyFans, and that's his vice. Other people may drink, and they may become alcoholic and drunkards and spend all their family income on booze, and that's their vice. Other people may smoke, and again, like, they spend a lot of money on smoke, and then they get cancer and they die early, and they leave their family without a father. That's their vice. And like, if you're trying to eliminate vice from society, you simply cannot, because even in religion, like, even if you're a Christian, God actually says that no person is without sin, because vices always exist. And so I'm not saying, like, vices shouldn't be, you know, like the extremes of the vices shouldn't be cracked down. Like, for instance, gambling, right? Like, gambling is a vice and it does destroy lives. And I do believe that it should be regulated. Kids shouldn't be able to gamble, and institutions that do offer gambling, they should be heavily regulated. But I don't think, like, gambling itself should be illegal, right? Like, does that make sense? This is what, like, some corruption exists. Like, we agree that nothing we can do is going to stop people from gambling. Like, someone somewhere is going to gamble. So it's best if we actually take some taxes from that, and it's best if it's done on the table, in the view of everyone, so that no one gets scammed, no one, you know, it doesn't end up with people shooting each other over the poker table. And we put some rules to protect some vulnerable people from gambling. So, like, people that are mentally deficient, right, and don't know what they're signing, they shouldn't be allowed to gamble. People that are too young, they shouldn't be allowed to gamble. So on and so forth, right? So, like, some corruption would exist. Like, I'm not justifying gambling. I'm not encouraging people to gamble. But I understand that in any country that I live, someone out there is going to gamble. And I'm fine with that. And my duty, my responsibility is to make sure that my son doesn't gamble. And at the same time, is to, you know, support, like, policies that are making gambling a reasonable thing. And that's it. But, like, if I was to go and justify, like, the abolition of all gambling, then that means that every person that gambles should be in prison. Like, we would definitely need more prisons for that. And I would also realize that, well, there's going to be abuses. Like, people are going to be wrongly convicted. And at the end of the day, it doesn't stop the problem. Like, you're just driving gambling underground. I think, like, the way to view it is kind of like sin or vice being a lightning strike. Like, you can't stop it. There will always be there. But you can channel it. You can redirect it. You can control it. And so, gambling on dog fights, right? Or cockfights. Like, we're all agreeing that those are bad for ethical consideration. So instead, you redirect it towards horse racing or something else that's less harmful. Like, you still have the gambling, you still have the animals, right? You still have the horse racing. But, like, no one says that horse racing is bad, like dog fighting. That's the Eastern European mindset. If the banks, and thank you for the €5, Christoph. If the banks and payment providers stop the money, the industry will collapse. No, it's just going to be decentralized and at a very local level and low quality. But you'll still have, like you do realize that these problems exist way before the internet. And these problems exist despite the payment processors. That, like, besides the fact that people would still do it for free. I mean, when I was a teenager, I remember people would have like CD-ROMs or floppy disks with pornography, and they would sell it. So like they would make money in person. And then before that, you had the magazines. Like you actually had like legit porn magazines, and people would buy those. So like if payment processors, like tomorrow, let's say all the payment processors would stop supporting pornography, right? First of all, like you have no guarantee that like another payment processors won't pop up, because like the industry is so fucking profitable that like it makes more money than some smaller governments have. And so like you may even end up with Elon Musk creating like his own payment processor that will allow adults. So like this is just like a regulation that will work in small time. But in the long run, like the demand from the market is so fucking high that the first person that does it is going to become a billionaire. And there's going to be like a lot of people that will try it. Now, let's assume that you actually manage to ban it and no one does anything. Well, what will happen is that people will just going to go back to printing it on paper. So you're just going to go outside and you're going to find it in shops, and people will just buy it using regular cash. Or you're going to have torrents and other things that, you know, people will have it, and then you can support them somewhere with Bitcoin or whatever. Like, you just, yeah, and thank you for Pal Damok from giving me from Basescu. And then you're also giving the payment processors more control than you want. The payment processors want to control, and they would absolutely love to be able to ban things that are legal. There's nothing, like if you give them the power to ban just normal legal adult, they will start banning guns next. Like, what's to stop a Democrat going to his connections from Visa and MasterCard and saying, well, you guys already banned pornography, why can't you ban assault weapons? And then what will happen is, like, they will wait for the next shooting, because, you know, like, it's going to happen at some point, like, statistically speaking. And then when it happens, and it fits the agenda, the government will go, okay, now's the time. And then Visa will say, well, due to the recent tragedy and blah, 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 we have decided we're not going to support gun manufacturers and blah, 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 blah. Why do you want that? Why is it that you're advocating for the shit that will be used against you? Just because, like, oh, well, I don't like pornography. It's like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. Teach your kids to stay away from it. Teach your family and your friends to stay away from it. But don't ask Visa to step in, because then the moment it's normalized, they're going to go after the other things. And it's going to be easy for politicians who can't pass a legislation. And they will be like, okay, there's no support for us to pass the anti-gun law. Let's just talk with Visa and MasterCard. Why are we even bothering? Like if Visa and MasterCard ban it, then it's going to be very difficult for the gun manufacturers to keep pushing shit. The point is, there's a lot of very illegal stuff. Well, if there's illegal stuff, go on a case-by-case basis and find who's responsible and put them in prison. Like, if it's illegal, enforce the law. If it's already a law against it, then enforce it. They will ban ammunition. Yeah, that's something. Why do you know about the De La Basescu joke if you're from the Czech Republic? And thank you so much. From Daddy. Happened to my friend who sold legal weed in Canada. I see. I don't know if Japan's copyright laws are more insane. I heard different things. I heard that if you have like a character that's identical and it just has like a minor difference, like let's say you have Misty from Pokemon, right? And you just change like the collar of her shirt or something, you can argue that, well, it's another character that's cosplaying as Misty. And you still manage to get through the copyright. So I've heard different things. They already ban ammo in California in the form of heavily restriction. And no, you can't buy over the internet mail order. That's illegal too. Yeah, like no one cares. See, this is the thing. And this is what people need to understand. In reality, and I spoke with politicians from different countries. I spoke to their aides. I spoke with people from the upper places, right? Because like as a content creator that has done this on YouTube for more than 8 years, you get to speak with a lot of people. You speak with midwits, you speak with elites, you speak with academics. Like eventually someone contacts you and they go into a conversation. And so I can tell you that most politicians, in fact almost everyone, doesn't give a shit about pornography. They genuinely do not care whatsoever about the content or the topic. Most politicians aren't loyal people. They're not pillars of the community, okay? Like, in fact, the more rich a person is, the more degenerate they are. And a lot of politicians used to understand this. Like, especially right-wingers used to understand this. Like, the more rich a person is, the more degenerate they are. I don't think this is, like, something that's controversial or something that's debatable. A person that has a lot of wealth is more likely to be a degenerate than a person that lives in poverty. Statistically speaking. Like, there's more degenerates in Hollywood than there's degenerates in the rural community, right? Like, can we agree with this? Because to be degenerate is expensive, that's why. And to be degenerate also requires connections. It also requires so that some degeneracy doesn't get reported, and then you need to know the right people. And so the politicians who are degenerates, they do not care about pornography. In fact, some of the shit that they engage with makes them not even care about porn because they're not attracted by it. Like, anyway. So why do they make legislation about it? The reason they make legislation about it is to pass authoritarian measures. It's a really easy cope that they can pick and latch on in order to get their foot in the door and then pass for other shit. The other thing they do it is with terrorism, and now they're doing it with Russia. Oh, the Russians are coming, so we need to change the elections. The Russians are coming, so we need to fortify, right? We need more censorship. We need more this. We need more that. The Russians. The terrorists, the extremists. We need Telegram to show us all the messages, all the information, because like the extremists. The children. We need to protect the children in Australia. So every single person that uses social media needs to now link their ID. We're protecting the children, right? They don't give a shit about the children. They don't think Russia is coming. They're not worried. I mean, they may be worried with the right-wing groups. Like, that's a legit concern for politicians. But even then, like, okay, the right-wing groups have gone into politics. All right, how can we deal with them? Like, they're human beings, right? How much money do they want? What exactly do they need? How can we make them happy? How can we accommodate them? That's the conversation that they're talking behind closed doors. They don't give a fuck. Oh, well, this hyper-nationalist party has gotten into government. Okay. How much money do you want? Like, we need this passed. You know, like, in front of the cameras, oh, yeah, we're arguing on this shit. But, like, this act needs to pass, this act needs to fail. How much money do you want? And so, when you're justifying shit, like, usually when you hear pornography, like, it should be a red alarm. It's like, okay, Visa and MasterCard cracking down on it. So, basically, you want the duopoly to decide what is and isn't legal online. And then it's like, okay, well, you disagree with porn. But, like, what if they go after guns? Oh, you don't disagree with that. Well, you don't agree with that. Well, tough shit. And not to mention, you know, like, is there even a commission? Like, let's say you have a website that's perfectly legal, and they're selling, like, safe for work stuff. But, like, Visa thinks... this actually did happen. It happened with... I think it was Target. It was a supermarket. And they were accused that they were selling sexual stuff that is promoting incest. And this, like, blew my fucking mind, because I'm like, okay, an American supermarket... That's for, like, the common pleb would never do that. So like whatever happens is like the accusation is false. So I'm looking into it. Do you know what it was? It was a Christmas wrapper that said "Spank Me Daddy." And that is like hypersexual promoting incest. And so you realize that if you give power to these companies, they can interpret any way they want. As long as, you know, like it's a little bit close, oh well, it's pornography. I mean, Melody Mac considers, I think like if you play World of Warcraft, you take a night elf and you strip her clothes and you do slash dance and you move the camera next to her ass, that's pornography. Right? So like you're giving private companies the ability to act without any sort of supervision, without any sort of appeal, without the people getting demonetized being able to show any evidence, without the... And you're thinking, well, it's pornography. What is your definition? Doesn't necessarily mean it's the company definition. And then don't have a regulatory body. Like you can ask, well, who gets to decide? The company does. And who gets to hold the company accountable? The company does. Look what you did. You created a system that gets to decide the traffic of an entire nation and is not accountable, gets to set its own rules. Why are you putting up with that shit? Oh, because you don't like porn. Okay. CGR 902, thank you for the 10 Californians. All of the government needs to do is to convince conservatives to implement central bank digital currency and mandated digital ID social credit is to promise to ban porn. Yes. And it worked in Australia. Paul DeBuck, you can take the Vasluiano from Vaslui, but you cannot take the Vaslui from the Vasluian. Take from Basescu. That's really cool. My wife is close from that region. A lot of exciting news comes from Vaslui as well in Romania. You get a lot of exciting news. I'm curious, like, what would Vaslui be compared to America? But I don't think you guys have a Vaslui. Yeah, there's nothing that I want to say that is that would make Vaslui proud. So I'll just keep it at that. But like you probably know. No. The talk friendly swimmer is a different controversy. Okay, like what I just said with the Spank Me Daddies from years ago. Like it's a different thing. Visa and MasterCard also started giving gun purchases certain tag numbers. Oh. I love the think of the children argument. It basically translates to please the government. Well, let's do it like this, okay? Like I can debunk the think the children argument quite easily. Look into the past and try to see how many laws were passed in order to think of the children. Now, ask yourself, how effective were those laws? Like, did it actually protect the kids? How much money was it made after those laws? Like, how much bureaucracy was needed to enforce it? How many new bureaucratic jobs were created and where the money went? And how many freedoms or rights were restricted? And then ask yourself, was it worth it? Was it cost effective and did it actually accomplish? And I can't think of many laws that passed in my lifetime. Like, there are a lot of them that did pass, you know, the think of the children laws that did pass. And they're actually effective, good, and cost effective. But they happened before I was born. After I was born, I can't think of a single one. But, I mean... child labor laws, I can debunk child labor laws as well. When child labor laws was passed, almost no kids were laboring. Like, sure, you know, it's good that you put the child labor laws there, but like, what I'm saying is that they didn't affect as many people. Like, if you're thinking that everyone was working in the factory and everyone was working in the mine, and all of a sudden the law was passed and everyone was in the town square screaming in happiness and hugging each other. No, that's not how it happened. The way it happened is that simply there wasn't need for kids in the mines anymore. And so like they gradually were pushed out of the mines. because like the parents wouldn't let them in because the economy was like usually kids wouldn't work in the mine because they wanted to, like they worked in the mine because there was no other choice. And so as the economy flourishes, as the new generations come in, and there's new techniques, and they don't need, like the parents don't let the kids in the mine, and the miners don't need kids anyway, then they passed the law. So like they passed the law after the situation was fixed. Will I stream with Arch again? I don't know, maybe. I mean, I have nothing against streaming with Arch. I like streaming with Arch. The children yearn for the mines. There was actually a country that tried to force this, right? Because like again, almost every single country, even European countries, went through this. Like during the Industrial Revolution, like I really am happy that I didn't catch those times. Like imagine being a kid and being sent under heavy machinery to clean it up, or getting crushed under machinery. And if you're crushed, that's it. That's your life. Like there's no health insurance. There's nothing. Like, okay, you broke your arm while working in the factory, you get fired, and they will hire someone else. And now you have to live with a broken arm, right? Like that was the reality back then. And so other nations that tried to develop after the UK, there was one Asian nation. I forgot the name of it. I don't want to. But anyway, they did try to ban children working in sweatshops and stuff. And so what ended up happening is you realize that the reason that's like kids work in sweatshops is because they don't have money. Like they don't have money to support themselves. They don't have money to eat. Like no one wants to work in a sweatshop, right? Like people are desperate. And so what happened is like the economy wasn't able to sustain those kids. Like they didn't have welfare. They weren't as rich as America. And they ended up with like a massive rates in child prostitution. And so when another country decided to do the same thing, and there was at a convention and they wanted to also pass the same laws, the president from the first country told the other guy, no, don't do it. We did it here. Like, trust me, you don't want to go that route. Just let it play out. Let it play out. Like, it's a dark part of human history. It's just like, let the kids go in the mines, and then eventually your nation will have enough money to have like social safety net, and you won't have to do that anymore. But like, no, just the opposite is worse. Like, trust me, it's no. And this is, like the idea that in history there's no right or wrong answer. It's just trade-offs. Like you can stop something and you get a trade-off. And so like most countries that have the labor laws is because the problem just stopped existing. Again, no one wants to work in the sweatshop. No one wants to work in the mine in the conditions that people in medieval time worked. Because now working in a mine, you get machinery, you get a lot of other things, and it's like a different thing. But like back then, it was horrible. No one wanted to do it. So like as the economy develops, then more and more people stop working in the mine, and the miners have to go like, okay, well, we still need workforce. Let's raise the price. Let's raise the wage. Let's increase safety. Let's create machinery that makes people work in the mine without being worried that their lungs will collapse. Next time you argue with Melanie Mack, mention how much she earns for government control and social credit. She will deny it. She will say, no, I don't want to. Like here's the thing. This is how the social justice activists did their censorship, right? You have like different waves of people that are working in unison. So you have like the Anita Sarkeesian. And the Anita Sarkeesian is like, no, she doesn't want to ban games. No, she's not for censorship. She just wants games to mature. She would never advocate for the banning of any game, right? She doesn't want to take your games away. She just wants more diversity. She just wants different games. You can still have your games, but she wants hers. But like she's often casting moral judgment, right? Like she's always saying that these types of games are encouraging sexism, misogyny, right? Like she's basically using moralizing language. But she wouldn't want to censor. And then you have like the second group of people that are coming and they do want to censor. They are saying, no, like these games cause misogyny and therefore they should be banned. And we should look into the CEOs at these companies and maybe we can find some dirt on them and we get them fired, right? And these are the second group of people. And so when a game gets banned or censored, you don't see the Anita Sarkeesian condemning it. You don't see her like, well, this game shouldn't have been censored. She's never talking against it. And it's almost like these people work hand in hand. I'm not saying they're coordinating on a Discord, but they feed on each other. And this is how you get the censorship, right? You can't debate Anita. You can't. Like, if you debate Anita Sarkeesian, she will just flat out say that she doesn't want to censor, she doesn't want to ban. And it's the same with Melody Mac. Like, if I were to debate her, she would say, no, she doesn't want to censor, she doesn't want to ban, she just thinks it's immoral. But then you see her own subscribers coming up, it's like, no, we need to ban pornography. And Melanie would be like, well, porn is like lewdness. Like, if you see a woman in a bikini, like, it depends. Actually, it depends what she will say in that particular day. But I have seen her, you know, like, condemning a girl doing, like, a dance in, what is it, the First Descendant. And so, you know, like the description of the word is very weaselly. It's done in a way so that the main public understands something while you're talking about something else. So it's very subversive. I don't think Christianity is supposed to be a subversive religion. I don't think you're supposed to manipulate people. She's casting moral judgment. She's saying it's sinful, which basically, like, for some Christian means that if it's sinful, it has to be destroyed. And so a debate with Melody on the subject wouldn't be fruitful, because I know exactly what she would say. And you can't really debate it on it. It's like, well, she said, well, I don't stand for censorship. It's like, okay. And then, like, what? Like, what's the next move? I feel you're being uncharitable to her. I think you should speak out against censorship. Like, I could be wrong, but I genuinely believe that. Well, I don't know. I feel like I've done this dance before. I don't think I'm disingenuous. I tell you exactly what's happening. People like Melanie Mac and the Quartering, they only care about the algorithm. Like, I'm telling you, they have their own principles, they have their own beliefs, but they treat YouTube as a business. And they should. They should. It is a business, right? Like, you're making money off of it. So they're treating it the same like the owner of a newspaper would treat the paper, right? Like, if you're looking at this as it's just like some person that comes up and starts talking in front of a camera and they just like spew their own opinions, you would be half right. Because it's mostly about the algorithm. It's like, what is the algorithm? What are they talking about? What is the opinion, right? Look at Jeremy. Like, you remember how he would post on Twitter, like, what subject do you want me to cover tomorrow, right? So, like, he would look at the subject that people are interested in, and then he would pick that subject, and then he would look like what people think about the subject. It's not necessarily grifting. Like, let me put it this way. Let's say that you have a video game that you don't have strong feelings about it. So, like, the new Elden Ring DLC. Like, I don't think the new Elden Ring DLC is good, but I don't think it's shit either. It's mediocre, right? So you're making a video about it, and you're like, okay, what exactly do I say? And you're looking at the public, and if you see that the overwhelming relation is positive, you can say, yeah, I mean, this game looks good, okay, fine. If it's negative, you're like, yeah, well, it's not my cup of tea. So you're basically, like, forming your argument, you're feeding off on your subscribers. And this is why, like, I keep telling people, if you don't like what a content creator is doing, if you don't like what a content creator is saying, what you need to do is to start following the content creator with a lot of your friends and then influence them, right? Like, voice your concerns, say why you don't like it. And then you see that all of a sudden the content creator actually starts saying the stuff that you agree with. Now, yeah, it's more like, this is why I laugh at the press when they're saying that the content creator influences the masses when it's the other way around. Like if Vosh's subscribers, all of a sudden, every single one of Vosh's subscribers would support a video game, you would see that Vosh is playing and liking it. And so, and it's true for a newspaper. Like, if I would get 10,000 people to start a New York Times subscription, and all of them would start praising Trump, you'd see, like, positive articles for Trump would appear on the New York Times. Anyway, My point with this was that in the case of Jeremy and Melanie Mac, right? Melanie Mac had a hot take. Like, she looked like someone showed her a picture of an ass, and she's a Christian, and she's, like, constantly under pressure. It's like, well, as a Christian, why are you defending this? As a Christian, why are you saying that? So, like, she needs to please those people. Because it's not like when you're looking at your followers, they're not like a blob. They have like different factions. So she's got like a lot of Christians that are like, well, if you're a Christian, why are you supporting this lewd poster of Tomb Raider? Why are you supporting Stellar Blade, right? So like now she has to please them. And someone sends her like a picture of an ass and a girl dancing. And she gotta say something and like, oh, this is an opportunity where I can tweet something and I get some clout and I please these people. So she tweets it out, but it's like incredibly hypocritical. It's like you can't like Stellar Blade, but not like The Last Descendant. You can't say that, oh, God is fine with some nudity, but like this is where God draws the line. You know, like you can't make that claim. So now she's getting her shit kicked in. She's getting pressured from other people. And what she does is she doubles down, because this is how she understands you fight with social justice activists. Like when social justice activists try to shame you, you double down. The problem is that the social justice activists aren't her audience. They don't give a shit about what she says, right? The people that were attacking her were part of her audience. So now she was confused because like all of a sudden, the people on her side were pushing her in because, and again, like she hasn't even played the game. She doesn't even know about the game. I'm telling you the rationale from a business perspective, like how this is done, right? So she's not playing the game. She doesn't understand the game. She's issuing a condemnation on the game without thinking. Now she's doubling down. Horrible optics all around. I'm willing to bet if she can take time back, if she can like undo the decision, she probably would. I don't think I'm being harsh on her. I think just like I'm talking about this, understanding content creators. Yeah, I saw she quote tweeted me. V is correct. I have seen this happen in real time with other content creators. Man, I've been doing this for almost a decade now. If I don't know content creators, then what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I am telling you, it depends on the content creator, right? Like, usually smaller content creators, they're a lot more honest because they don't... Like, look, I got 300 people watching, okay? If I say something that alienates 10% of my audience, I don't care. I'm going to have 290 people watching. So I can afford being honest about how I feel, and everything that I say is genuinely how I think about a subject. Now, if I were to have 3 million people watching, and I say something and I alienate 10%, that's 300,000 people. That is a major blow. So this is why when you have big content creators, they usually play off the algorithm, they usually do different things. Now, I'm not going to lie. I, too, allow myself to be manipulated to a certain extent by the audience. For instance, if I have 10 subjects that I can cover. So I wake up in the morning and I can talk about Russia, I can talk about the United States, I can talk about Germany. But I only can make one video, right? I can't make more than one video. What do I talk about? Well, I usually go and I see what is the popular topic. I will try to find out something that people genuinely are interested in, so that I know that when I release the video, people watch. Because at the end of the day, every single content creator, and people will lie if they deny this, every single one. Doesn't matter, political opinions, they want their videos to be watched. If we didn't want videos to be watched, we would just record ourselves. We would just be talking to the walls without recording ourselves. I don't disavow shit. I really hate the concept of disavowal. Jesus fucking Christ. If I like I have my own moral considerations. I have my own moral principles. If I think a person is bad, I will disavow because I think the person is bad. I don't like this, like, but do you disavow? Not to mention, I don't usually like collaborate with people outside of a business perspective. So there are like cases where I would disavow, but even then I probably wouldn't do it publicly. I would just like distance myself from that person. I don't like this like going in public in front of 20 microphones and being, I disavow Adam Smith or blah blah blah. It feels so fake. If you really don't like Adam Smith, stop talking about him. Shut the fuck up. No one cares. Because a lot of times, and I will say you a lot of times, I have seen this happen. You disavow someone like Johnny Depp because he's accused of rape, and it's like, oh, so you're a rape apologist now, blah, 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 blah. And everyone's like, disavow Johnny, disavow Johnny. Do you disavow? Do you disavow? And people are like, I disavow Johnny Depp. And everyone's like, yes, finally he stood up. Righteousness. And then it turns out that Johnny didn't do it. How many people go and apologize? How many people like were genuinely, you know, in public? You know what? I disavowed Johnny, but I feel so fucking bad about it. I hate this culture. It is absolutely disgusting and shameful. If you disavow someone, then just stop talking with them. And you don't need others to tell you. You should know better. You're a fucking grown man. You know which people you should disavow and which ones you wouldn't. And if you disavow someone, do it behind closed doors and just stop talking with that person and tell that person why you think they're a piece of shit. Like I told Rags. Ugh. And by the way, chat, in this moment, I disavow Rags. I wholeheartedly, 100% distance myself. I am like Jesus Christ, cutting away body and spirit away from Rags. In eternal damnation, he fucking goes. Ruined my D&D game. Twat. All jokes aside, though, yeah, no, it's cringe. It is fucking cringe when you do it. I do disavowing. The associator has limits. I already said that. Like, I will say, like, I'm the associator and I associate with people that are bad. Because I have my own moral compass. Like, I know which people I should and shouldn't associate myself with. Have you watched the Asmongold clip with the woman admitting she made a false rape report? In that case, was famous online a couple... I haven't seen it. I will have to catch up with it. But, yeah, no, it's horrible. It's horrible, and this is why I hate this culture. It's like, oh, do you disavow? Do you disavow? Like, first of all, what does it mean for me to associate with someone? It's usually from a business perspective, right? Like, maybe we do a stream. Maybe I just happen to talk with them. Maybe I, retweet something they said. That is the extent of my association. They're not my real friend. Like, I don't go barbecuing with them, right? And most of the shit that I associate with people are shit that is not even controversial. Like, I don't associate myself with bad people. And so, what is the problem? Oh, I'm playing D&D with some people. Okay. Let's assume that like one of the people that I play D&D with is accused of something bad. Then I judge for myself. And if I think it's really that bad, then I will stop playing D&D. But not because other people are pressuring me, but because I'm using my own morality. I mean, for the pressure to disassociate is so fucking high. Like, yeah, you associate with exophobes. I didn't care when the social justice activists were bitching that I'm associating with Sargon. Why would I care now? It's like, I associate and disassociate as I see fit. And so far, I think, like, my morality was pretty spot on. Like, I didn't make really bad character judgment. It can happen. Like, sometimes it did happen. But, like, most of the time, no. Anyway, I need to go. I need to work on the videos for my other channels. So, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe we can make this weekend stupid work.